Hello, Barbies and G.I. Joes. Welcome to a discussion episode. Before I go into it, I want to say the gameplay you're looking at here is UAC Experiment. The map is designed by Duzan. If you want to check it out, I'll give you a link to a full playthrough in the description down below so that way you can go ahead and watch it. So there's been a lot of controversy going on. And what is this controversy about? Well, there were two terrible incidents that took place this past Sunday. One of them took place in Texas. The other one took place in Ohio. Donald John Trump has made a speech about violent video games causing these incidents. And because of that, a lot of people got really angry at him. Even Reggie Fils-Aimé himself. Review Tech USA's talked about that too. About Reggie Fils-Aimé specifically, but anyways, why are people angry at Donald Trump for his speech? Do you want to know why? Because there are countless studies that show that violent video games do not cause crazy behavior. They don't. It's been proven well over a decade, and there are countless studies that prove that violent video games don't cause this phenomenon. Okay? I read up about it. I was reading an article discussing it. And what is this article titled? I'm glad you asked me that. The article is titled, "Violent Video Games Do Not Cause Violence." And you know what? After reading it, I have to agree with what the person has written down, okay? So there are 3 tests that the researchers have performed according to the article. They are the hot sauce paradigm, the reaction time competition task, and a word or story completion task. Those are the 3 tests that were conducted to see if violent video games cause aggressive behavior. Okay? Some of you may ask, well, what do these tests involve exactly? Well, I'm glad you asked me that. Alright, so let's break it down, shall we? The hot sauce paradigm task involves filling a cup up with hot sauce, and whoever fills a cup up with more hot sauce is said to be more aggressive than the opponent. As for the reaction time competition task, that one involves pressing a button as soon as you see a light flash. And whoever presses the button first gets to punish the opponent with some white noise. And the one who punishes the other more severely is said to be more aggressive. As for a word or story completion task, what happens is that you are given some of the letters of a word and you have to guess what a word is. Alright? And what happens is whoever chooses the more aggressive word or predicts that a character is more likely to cause harm to other characters is said to be more aggressive. So, these tests were orchestrated on the people who play the video games. 2 groups. Okay, one group is the one that plays violent video games, and the other group is the one that plays non-violent video games. Okay? So what were the results? Okay. In the hot sauce paradigm task, the ones who played violent video games filled the cup up with more hot sauce than the ones who played non-violent video games. As for the reaction time competition task, the ones who played violent video games punished their opponents more severely than the ones who played non-violent video games. As for the word or story completion task, the ones who played violent video games were more likely to choose a more aggressive word or predicts that a character will cause harm to other characters than the ones who played non-violent video games. So the question is, what do these results conclude, or at least suggest? If not conclude, at least suggest. You want to know what it is? That people who played violent video games were said to be more aggressive than the ones who don't play violent video games. But we have a problem here. Okay? I mean, yeah, the violent video game people may have filled a cup up with more hot sauce, punished their opponents more severely with white noise, and predicted that character is more likely to cause harm to self or chose an aggressive word than the ones who did not play violent video games. I mean, yeah, that may have happened during the test, but that doesn't mean that the people who played violent video games are more likely to engage in aggressive behavior, okay? Because at worst, researchers cannot directly correlate between violent video games and aggressive behavior, okay? They can't do that, all right? They can't directly correlate. That's at worst. Okay, and as for people who play games, okay, the people who play, there are tons of people, including myself, who like to play violent video games, but just because we like to play violent video games does not mean that we like to engage in aggressive behavior. Okay, and you know what? And there's a question in an article that asks, and the question is, well, if it is not the violence in video games, then what is it? That's a good question there, article. Well, there's a number of factors that influence behavior, okay? Number of factors. And do you want to know what the factors are? The factors, and I'm sure there's a number of theories out there, but in my theory, though, I list 3 factors that cause aggressive behavior. Okay? They are the overly offended culture, mental health, and drugs. These are the 3 factors that affect aggressive behavior. And I mean cause more aggressive behavior. Okay? That's what I mean. Now, the question is, in which, some of these factors are linked to one another. And I'll talk about that. So, let's discuss the overly offended culture. I don't think anybody would ever deny that, yeah, we're living in this super politically correct culture where it's like, if you do something innocent, you're perceived as a bad person. Okay? I've been the victim of it myself. I've been through situations where I've been called into a security office because, there's a girl who complains about me. Let's just say for, misconduct, okay? When realistically, all I was doing is I was just trying to have a conversation with the girl. Okay, I was just trying to talk with her and get to know her. And it's not like I was saying hurtful things to her. It's not like I was bullying her or anything like that. All I was doing is just trying to make friends. And I get accused of misconduct. Which, it's not like I got expelled from college or anything like that. It wasn't like that. It's more like I was just told to stay away from that girl. I've dealt with situations like that, and to me, I think it's disgusting, okay? Because there's people out there who simply want to have a discussion, and they're not here to cause hostile environment, okay? They're not here to do that. They're here to, they just want to make friends. They want to make you feel happy about yourself, and trying to get the person in trouble over that, you're not making a place safer for everyone, okay? What you're doing, I mean, I can understand why organizations have policies in place. Yeah, that's understandable. I understand why they have policies about harassment, stalking, and stuff like that. Yeah, I get that. But what does become a problem is when people abuse the policies. Okay, that's what becomes a problem. And when the innocent people are facing consequences, they're not really making the organization a safe place. They're actually making it worse, okay? I mean, yeah, there are some bad people out there who like to bully other people, who like to do other horrible things, okay? And that stuff I'm against, okay? And I think people who do things like that need to be punished, okay? But people who just want to have a conversation and make friends, I don't think they should face any kind of like repercussions. I don't think it should happen, okay? What my suggestion to people who are that easily offended, if you don't like being approached by someone, if you don't like being approached to have a conversation, if you're really that easily offended and you're out in the public, why not find somewhere else to be where you won't be approached, okay? Why not do that instead of reporting that person for misconduct? Because you're not making a place better for everyone. You're making it worse, okay? Which ultimately what happened was, the security officers at my college, they knew that I was a friendly person. They understood my situation. They understood that I was a friendly person. So what happened was, when the two girls complained about me, the security officers, they put their foot down with them and said, don't worry about it. So yeah, I was relieved about it. I was glad that I didn't have to come into the office to discuss the situation. I was happy about it, happy that I didn't have to worry about having to do like follow-ups and things like that. I just don't like having to go through the hassle. And don't ask me questions about it, because I'm not going to answer them, because you're going to end up embarrassing me, and I don't want to have to go through that. So as for when it comes to overly offended culture that we live in, another example that I can come up with is, and I've heard this story before, was when Microsoft was accused of using a racial slur. Okay, they were imitating a zombie's roar, and what happened was, just because the title of the email had some of the same letters as a racial slur has in it, a customer was like, oh my god, how dare you be racist, how dare you say that word. And what happened was Microsoft had to go online and apologize. To me, I think that's unnecessary. I don't think Microsoft should have done that. I think they should have told the customer that, if you're on the internet and you can't handle that email, step off of it before you ruin it for other people. So, I mean, there's a number of examples out there when it comes to dealing with the overly offended culture, and when it comes to people that orchestrated these activities, like Dylan Roof, Nicholas Cruz, and other dudes like them. I got a question for you, okay? Why do you think these guys are so angry? Why do you think they're angry? Do you want to know why? It's this politically correct culture that we live in. That's why. I mean, there's a number of reasons why. One of them is the politically correct culture, because the people who orchestrated the activities, they're fed up with the culture. Now, obviously, it doesn't justify what they've done. I still think they need to be held accountable for their actions, because they are a menace to society. And I want to see that stuff go away. Okay? I want to see these incidents go away. Alright? I'd rather see people be safe. I'm not saying the victims are the reasons for this. I'm not talking about the victims, okay? The victims have nothing I mean, obviously, yeah, they are affected by the activity, but I'm not blaming the victims, okay? I'm blaming the overly offended culture that we live in. And, you know, if these guys weren't so angry, these incidents would have never happened, okay? If it had not been for this culture that we live in, these incidents would have never happened, all right? And everyone would have been happy, and everyone would have been safe. But no, this culture is one of the reasons why we have these incidents. And I'm sure there's going to be more incidents that will happen. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't engage in it because I don't want to get in trouble. But you know, it's only a matter of time before someone does something. Okay, you know, we've dealt with problems before, and there's going to be more problems in the future. Okay. I mean, some of them, they're going to keep reoccurring, okay? I mean, it happens, okay? And you know what? I'm not condoning what happened. I think it's terrible. And yeah, I really do feel bad for these poor victims, alright? So, speaking of the overly sensitive culture, and why does that contribute to the terrible incidents that happen? Why is that relevant? Do you want to know why? Because also, I may not have mentioned this until now, is that it ruins your mental health, okay? If you're a person who's looking for things to be offended by and trying to police other people and trying to act like you're offended, you know that that stuff is bad for your mental health, okay? If you're an overly offended person, what happens? What are the risks associated with being super sensitive? Well, the risks that you would be facing are depression, and I mean like you'd be at higher risk. I wouldn't say you'll get depression, but you're at higher risk of developing these symptoms. You would face anger problems and depression. And what happens is when you're angry, you're more likely to cause harm to other people. If you are depressed, you are more likely to cause harm to yourself, especially when it gets really severe. So, my word of advice to the overly offended people: stop being so offended. Find something better to do. Don't try and ruin other people. Don't try and ruin their reputation, because it's not their fault, okay? You're just trying to make everyone look bad, all right? You're ruining the entertainment industry, and you're just trying to make everyone look bad, okay? That's the point I want to make about the culture that we live in. As far as drugs, now question is, I mean, I have a feeling that's going to get this video demonetized, but as far as drugs are concerned, why does that contribute to the terrible incidents? Well, do you want to know why? Because they affect your brain. They mess up your brain. They cause you to act differently. Okay? That's why drugs cause these incidents to happen. Okay? I mean, think about why, you know, crime rates are so high among teens. You want to know why? Most of them are drug-related offenses, okay? And, I mean, they're bad for your health in general, okay? Don't do drugs. I'd rather see you be healthy, okay? Especially if you're going into workforce, because they will drug test you, and if they find out that you're on drugs, guess what? You don't get the job, because you can't function in the workforce, alright? So, yeah, I'm for having drug testing in place, alright? They want to make sure you're healthy, and they want to make sure that you can do the job, alright? Let's see here. What else is there in the article? And I'm sure there's other things in the article too, but another question I want to discuss that the article lists, and this is at the very end, is, should children play violent video games? I mean, I would say that's more of like your opinion. I mean, some of you may say yes, some of you may say no. My response to that is, well, if the children are mature enough to understand the difference between fiction and reality, yeah, they should be able to play violent video games. Okay, even if they're 7 years old, if they can, as long as they can understand the difference between fiction and reality, they should be able to play violent video games. All right, and I think everyone can agree with me on that. So, and when it comes to Donald Trump's take on violent video games and trying to get those banned, which I think that's a terrible idea, okay? Banning violent video games is a terrible idea. The reason for that is because the government should not be the one that does the parenting, okay? The government should not be the one that does the parenting. It should be up to the parents to decide if children should play violent video games, not the government, okay? You cannot be the parent for the parents, okay? You should not do the job for the parents. You should let the parents decide if children should be allowed to play violent video games or not. You know, think about, like, why do we have, if you're in the United States, why do we have an ESRB rating system on it? There's a reason why we have the ESRB rating system on it, okay? Like the gameplay you're looking at here, okay? The gameplay videos that you see on my channel, for those of you who've been watching my channel for a long time, okay? The game that I play here, this is mature rated. It's got violence in it, okay? And when it comes to a mature rated game, it's supposed to warn the parents that it has mature content in it, whether it's because the game has lots of violence in it or it's got a lot of strong language in it. Whatever the case may be, the purpose of the ESRB rating system is to warn parents about the content that's in the game. Okay, it's to warn the parents. All right. And so that way, parents can make informed decisions in terms of whether or not children should be allowed to play the violent video games or not, or any mature games out there, okay? Not just violent games, but any mature games out there. You know, the ESRB rating system is supposed to guide the parents, okay? So that way they can make smart and sound-minded decisions. All right? Should not be up to the organizations. It should not be up to the government. No, it should be up to the parents. The parents are the ones that should do the job, okay? And not just in the United States, but around the world. I think that's something that all countries around the world need to understand, is it should not be up to the organization, but rather the parents should be the ones that decide if children should be allowed to play mature games, okay? So, anyways, if you have any thoughts about this, leave them in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this discussion, make sure you leave a like. If you would like to see more of my activities and you have not subscribed yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. As always, thank you for your watching, and condolences to the poor victims of these incidents. I hope that all of you are having a good one, and I hope that all of you are safe. Bye-bye.